I used to believe betrayal came with a warning, a raised voice, a guilty expression, a moment when someone looked away because they knew they were lying. I was wrong. The most dangerous betrayals come from the people who look you in the eyes every morning and tell you they love you. My name is Dominic Steele. For 15 years, I built Steele Innovations from a small garage project into one of the fastest growing technology companies in America. I was the man investors called a genius, the man employees called a visionary, the man business magazines called the next generation of Silicon Valley leadership. But none of those titles mattered the night I realized the person sitting beside me at the dinner table had been planning my downfall for years. It started with a message. I was sitting in my office reviewing the quarterly reports when my phone vibrated. Unknown number. Normally, I ignored messages from strangers, but something about this one felt different. I opened it. There was only one sentence. Mr. Steele, the transfer documents have been finalized. Your wife and Ryan Mitchell now control the voting majority. I stared at the screen. For a few seconds, I thought it was a mistake. Then another message arrived. This time, there was an attachment, a legal document. My name was on it. My company was on it. And at the bottom was my wife's signature. Claire Sterling, my wife of 8 years. The woman who had stood beside me when I had nothing. The woman who used to tell me, Dominic, one day everyone will know your name. Apparently, she just wanted to make sure I wasn't around when they did. I opened the document. The details were clear. A stock restructuring agreement, a private investment deal, a transfer of executive authority. My own company was being taken away from me, and the person helping them do it was Ryan Mitchell, Claire's former boyfriend. I leaned back in my chair and stared out the window. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. Anger was for people who lost control. I had spent 15 years building a company where one wrong decision could cost millions. I learned a long time ago that emotions made terrible business partners. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I started calculating. Who benefited? Who was involved? Who thought they had already won? The answer was obvious. Claire, Ryan, and whoever was financing them. I closed the document. Then I deleted the message. Not because I wanted to forget, because I wanted them to believe I didn't know. 3 days later, I walked into the Steele Innovations board meeting. Everyone was already there. The executives, the shareholders, the board members who had spent years calling me their leader. But something was different. Nobody looked at me the way they used to. They looked uncomfortable, like they were waiting for something to happen. Then I saw her. Claire was sitting at the head of the table, my chair. She was wearing the same diamond necklace I gave her on our 5th anniversary. She noticed me looking at it. For a moment, I thought I saw guilt in her eyes. Then it disappeared. Dominic, she said calmly, you're late. I looked at the clock. I was exactly on time. I wasn't aware I needed permission to enter my own company's boardroom. Nobody spoke. Ryan Mitchell smiled. That smile told me everything. Ryan had always been the kind of man who believed confidence could replace ability. He adjusted his suit jacket and leaned forward. Dominic, this isn't personal. I almost laughed. People always said that right before doing something extremely personal. Interesting choice of words, I said. Claire folded her hands. We need to have an adult conversation. About what? She looked at the documents in front of her. About the future of Steele Innovations. I sat down. Go ahead. Ryan glanced around the room. Over the past year, the company has grown beyond one person's vision. I looked at him. One person's vision? Yes, Ryan replied. The company needs leadership that understands expansion, investment, and global strategy. I smiled slightly. You mean someone who knows how to spend money they didn't earn? His expression changed. Only for a second. But I noticed. People like Ryan were easy to read. They didn't hide emotions well. Claire ignored my comment. We have reached an agreement with Blackwell Capital. The name confirmed my suspicion. Victor Blackwell, one of the most powerful investors in America. A man who didn't buy companies. He collected them. Claire continued. They will inject significant capital into Steele Innovations. In exchange, there will be leadership restructuring. Meaning? She looked directly at me. Meaning you will step away from daily operations. The room went silent. I looked around. Some people avoided my eyes. Others looked sorry. A few looked relieved. Those were the ones who had already chosen a side. I turned back to Claire. You planned this. She didn't answer. That was answer enough. Ryan leaned back. Dominic, don't make this difficult. I looked at him. You're telling me not to make this difficult? Yes. You entered my company. He didn't respond. You used my wife's relationship with me to gain access. Still silent. You moved internal documents to outside investors. His face changed. Just slightly. But enough. Claire noticed. Dominic, you need to stop. No, I said. I think I finally need to start. The room became tense. Ryan's confidence was disappearing. Claire looked nervous. That was when I knew something important. They thought they had everything, but they didn't, because they made the same mistake every person who underestimated me made. They thought my silence meant weakness. They never understood that silence was where I did my best work. The truth was, I had known about Ryan for months. Not everything, not at first, but enough. I noticed small things. Files disappearing from restricted folders. Employees suddenly leaving for companies connected to Blackwell Capital. Investment reports that didn't match financial projections. Then I noticed Claire. The woman who once asked me about every decision I made suddenly stopped asking questions. She started giving answers. She started meeting people I wasn't introduced to. She started protecting Ryan. That was when I began investigating. And what I found changed everything. Ryan wasn't helping my company. He was preparing to steal it. He created a private investment structure designed to weaken my voting power. He used confidential company information to attract Blackwell Capital. And Claire signed every agreement. The woman I loved had become the person trying to destroy everything I built. But I wasn't ready to expose them. Not yet. Because exposing a thief was easy. Making a thief destroy himself was much more satisfying. I looked at Claire across the table. She still had the same eyes I fell in love with. That was the hardest part. The person who betrayed me didn't look like an enemy. She looked like my wife. Dominic, she said quietly, please understand. This is business. I stared at her. No, Claire. She frowned. This stopped being business the moment you decided to do it behind my back. Her expression softened. For a second, I saw the woman I married. Then Ryan interrupted. Enough. I looked at him. You really think you're in control, don't you? He smiled. I know I am. I stood up. Everyone watched me. I picked up my folder and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Claire asked. I stopped. Then I turned around. Home. Ryan laughed. That's it. I looked at him. Yes. He shook his head. You're giving up? I smiled. No. I walked closer. I'm giving you time. His smile disappeared. For what? I looked at Claire, then at Ryan. To make more mistakes. And with that, I left the boardroom. They thought they had removed me. They thought they had won. They thought the empire I built was now theirs. But they didn't understand something. Steel Innovations was never built because of money. It was built because of me. And if they wanted a war, I was going to show them exactly why nobody had ever survived one against Dominic Steele. I have always believed that the biggest mistake a person can make in business is underestimating their opponent. People think the strongest person in the room is the one who talks the most. They are wrong. The strongest person is usually the one who listens, the one who watches, the one who lets everyone else reveal their cards first. That was exactly what I did after leaving the boardroom. I let Claire believe she had defeated me. I let Ryan believe he had taken my company. And I let Blackwell Capital believe they had found the easiest billion-dollar acquisition of their entire history. Because the truth was simple. They didn't take my empire. They walked into a trap I built for them. The first thing I did after leaving Steel Innovations was call Emma Hayes. Emma had been my chief financial officer for 7 years. She was one of the few people in the company who understood the difference between loyalty and convenience. She answered after the first ring. Dominic. Her voice sounded tense. You already know. I looked at the documents in my hand. Yes. There was a long silence. Then she said quietly, I was hoping I was wrong. So was I? Emma sighed. Claire and Ryan have been moving money for months. I know. No, Dominic. I don't think you understand how serious this is. Tell me. She hesitated. Ryan created a separate investment structure. He used company resources to build a private acquisition plan. If everything goes through, Blackwell Capital will gain control of the company. I leaned back. Not Ryan. No. Her answer came quickly. Ryan thinks he is becoming the next CEO. But from what I found, Blackwell never intended to give him real control. I smiled. That was exactly what I expected. Ryan was smart, but he was not experienced. He confused being invited to the table with owning the restaurant. Can you send me everything you have? I already did. I checked my phone. A folder was waiting. Financial records, internal emails, private transactions. I opened the first file, then the second, then the third. Each one confirmed what I already knew. Claire wasn't just helping Ryan. She was the reason he had access. She gave him information. She gave him opportunities. She gave him my trust. The hardest part wasn't losing control of the company. The hardest part was realizing my wife had been watching me build something she was already planning to take. That night, Claire came home late. I was sitting in the living room when she walked in. She stopped when she saw me. Dominic? I looked up. You're home. Her expression changed. She expected anger, a fight, maybe even desperation. She didn't expect calm. Why are you sitting here in the dark? I smiled slightly. Thinking. About what? I looked at her. You. She froze. For a moment, she looked nervous. Then she recovered. Dominic, we need to talk. I almost laughed. That sentence had become popular among people who had already made decisions without you. About the company? She walked closer. Yes. Interesting. What does that mean? It means you already decided my future before asking what I thought. Her face tightened. This isn't about hurting you. Really? No. She sat across from me. This is about reality. I waited. She continued. You built an amazing company. Nobody can deny that. But you refuse to change. I stared at her. Explain. You still think like a founder. You focus on technology, innovation, products. And that's a problem? No. But companies don't survive because of ideas alone. She leaned forward. They survive because of money, investors, and strategy. I nodded. So Ryan is strategy now? Her eyes moved slightly. A tiny reaction. But I saw it. You know about Ryan? I know enough. She became defensive. Dominic, don't turn this into something ugly. Ugly? I repeated the word. Claire, you signed documents to remove me from my own company. I did what was necessary. No. I looked at her. You did what you wanted. She looked away. That hurt more than anger would have. Because guilt meant there was still something left. But Claire wasn't guilty. She was convincing herself she was right. The next morning, I met with Emma. She placed a folder on the table. There is more. I opened it. What? Ryan has been copying research files. I looked up. How long? 6 months. My expression changed. 6 months? Yes. He had access? Claire approved it. I closed the folder. For the first time, I felt something close to anger. Not because they betrayed me. Because they threatened thousands of employees who trusted me. People who worked late nights. People who believed in the company. People who had families depending on their jobs. This wasn't just a personal fight anymore. This was about protecting what I built. Can we prove it? Emma nodded. I saved everything. Good. She looked at me carefully. Dominic, what are you going to do? I looked at the evidence. Then at her. Nothing. She frowned. Nothing? Not yet. Why? Because right now, they think they won. Emma didn't understand. Most people don't. They think revenge means immediate action. They think strength means showing your enemy you are angry. But business is different. The best move is often the one nobody sees coming. Let them continue, I said. Emma looked shocked. Dominic, if they realize you're collecting evidence. They won't. How do you know? I looked at her. Because they are too confident. 3 days passed. And during those 3 days, Claire changed completely. She stopped pretending. The woman who used to ask me how my day was became a stranger. She sent messages through lawyers. She communicated through assistants. Our marriage became a business transaction. Then she called me. I almost didn't answer. But I wanted to hear what she had to say. Dominic. Her voice was cold. Yes? You need to sign the separation agreement. I smiled. Is that why you called? Don't make this harder. You keep saying that. Because you keep refusing to accept reality. I looked at the contract in front of me. A contract designed to make me walk away quietly. Claire. What? Do you really believe Ryan cares about you? Silence. Then, what are you talking about? I'm asking a simple question. He loves me. I closed my eyes. That answer hurt. Not because it was true. Because she believed it. Claire, Ryan doesn't love you. You don't know that. I know him better than you do. You're just angry. No. I lowered my voice. I'm disappointed. Another silence. Then she said, You always thought you were better than everyone. I looked at the phone. No. I answered. I just never thought the person beside me would be the one trying to destroy me. She hung up. That night, I made my final decision. I opened my private account. The one only my original legal team knew existed. Inside were years of preparation. Backup ownership structures. Emergency agreements. Contingency plans. Every successful founder has one. A plan for the day everything goes wrong. Most people create those plans because they fear losing. I created mine because I understood people. And now I finally needed it. I called my attorney, Michael Carter. Michael, Dominic, I've been waiting. You know? Yes. And he paused. I'm sorry. I looked at the documents. Don't be. Dominic, prepare everything. For what? I smiled. For the moment, they realized they never owned the company. Michael was quiet. Then he asked, When do you want to move? I looked at the calendar. After the shareholder meeting. The meeting where they remove you? Yes. And you're sure? I smiled. Very. Why? Because I knew something Claire and Ryan didn't. They believed they had stolen my company. But they had only stolen the version of the company I allowed them to see. The real battle hadn't started yet. And when it did, they would learn the difference between taking someone's position and defeating them. I was Dominic Steele, and I had spent 15 years building an empire. I knew exactly how to destroy one. People often ask me when I knew I had won. Was it when Claire finally admitted what she had done? Was it when Ryan lost everything? Was it when Blackwell Capital's executives came to me asking for help? No. The moment I knew I had won was much earlier. It was the moment I walked into that shareholder meeting and saw the confidence on their faces. Because confidence built on a lie is the easiest thing in the world to destroy. The shareholder meeting was scheduled for 9 in the morning. By 8:30, every major investor connected to Steel Innovations was already there. This wasn't just a normal company meeting. Everyone knew what was happening. The rumors had spread quickly. The founder was being replaced. The CEO was losing control. A new leadership team was taking over. And at the center of it all was my wife, Claire. I arrived exactly at 9. Not early, not late. I wanted everyone to see me walk in. I wanted them to remember that I wasn't hiding. When I entered the conference room, the conversation stopped. Claire looked at me. For a moment, I saw hesitation. Then she recovered. Dominic. I nodded. Claire. Ryan was sitting beside her. He looked completely different from the man I saw 3 days earlier. Back then, he was nervous. Today, he looked like he owned the place. That was the problem with people like Ryan. They always celebrated too early. He stood up. I didn't expect you to show. I looked at him. Why wouldn't I? He smiled. Considering today's vote, I thought you might want to avoid embarrassment. I pulled out a chair and sat down. Ryan, there is a difference between losing and accepting that you lost. His smile faded slightly. What does that mean? It means you should pay attention today. Claire interrupted. Dominic, this isn't the time for arguments. I looked at her. You're right. She seemed surprised. I don't want arguments either. Good. Then you understand why this decision is necessary. I looked around the table. All the shareholders were waiting. Everyone wanted to know what I would do. Would I fight? Would I beg? Would I try to save my position? They were about to learn something important. I never fought for positions. I fought for outcomes. The meeting began. The chairman opened with a formal statement. Today's purpose is to vote on the proposed executive restructuring plan. Ryan presented the proposal. He spoke confidently. Too confidently. Steel Innovations has reached a point where expansion requires professional investment management. Dominic Steele's contributions are undeniable, but the company must move beyond its founder. I almost smiled. The same company he helped steal. The same technology he wanted to sell. The same employees he was willing to sacrifice. Now he was pretending to care about growth. When he finished, Claire spoke. Dominic, before the vote, we want to give you the opportunity to cooperate. I looked at her. Cooperate? Yes. She pushed a document toward me. This agreement will protect your financial interests. I didn't even touch it. You mean it will pay me to disappear? Her expression changed. That isn't fair. I looked at her. Fair. The entire room became silent. Claire, you secretly transferred company shares. You worked with an outside investor. You removed me from decisions involving my own company. I leaned forward. And now you're asking me to call that fair? She lowered her voice. Dominic, don't make this emotional. I smiled. You're the one who made it emotional when you involved our marriage. Ryan leaned forward. This is exactly the problem. I looked at him. What problem? You always mix personal feelings with business. I laughed. Actually laughed. Several shareholders looked uncomfortable. Ryan frowned. You think this is funny? No. I looked directly at him. I think it's interesting. What? For months, you have been telling everyone I'm too emotional. I paused. But you were the person who made a billion-dollar business decision because you were jealous of the man who created it. His face changed. The room became quiet. Ryan looked at Claire. Just for a second. But everyone saw it. That was the first crack. The chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Steele, do you have anything relevant to present before we proceed with the vote? Yes. I opened my folder. And for the first time that morning, Claire looked nervous. Dominic. I ignored her. My first document is related to the restructuring agreement. I placed it on the table. This agreement was presented as a legitimate investment transaction. Ryan crossed his arms. Because it is. No. I looked at him. It isn't. I turned to the shareholders. The agreement contains undisclosed conflicts of interest. I handed copies to everyone. This investment wasn't designed to strengthen Steel Innovations. I paused. It was designed to transfer control. People started reading. Whispers spread around the room. Claire's face became pale. Ryan immediately stood up. This is nonsense. I looked at him. Sit down, Ryan. He froze. Maybe it was because he heard something in my voice. Something he hadn't heard before. He sat. I continued. Document 2. I placed another file on the table. Unauthorized transfer of proprietary research data. Nobody spoke. The room changed instantly. Because financial manipulation was one thing. Stealing company assets was another. A shareholder looked at Ryan. Is this true? Ryan shook his head. Absolutely not. I looked at him. You want to explain why your private consulting company received Steel Innovations research files? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Claire looked at him. Ryan? That was the first time I saw fear in her eyes. Not because she was caught. Because she realized Ryan might not be able to save her. Then I placed the final document down. The one they never expected. The third document contains communication records between Claire Sterling, Ryan Mitchell, and Blackwell Capital representatives. Claire immediately stood. Dominic, stop. I looked at her. No. My voice was calm. But you should have stopped. She stared at me. You're destroying everything. I looked at her. No, Claire. I shook my head. You did. The documents were passed around. Messages, emails, private conversations, plans, everything, including the sentence Ryan sent 3 months earlier. Once Dominic signs the agreement, the company will belong to us. The room exploded. Questions, arguments, accusations. Nobody cared about the restructuring anymore. Everyone cared about one thing. Who had tried to steal the company? Claire came closer. Dominic, please. I looked at her. That word, please. The same woman who had spent months planning behind my back was now asking me for mercy. What do you want me to do? She lowered her voice. Don't destroy me. I stared at her. I spent 8 years protecting you. Her eyes filled with tears. I know. No. I shook my head. You don't. I pointed at the documents. If you knew, you would have never done this. Then Ryan suddenly spoke. You think you won? Everyone looked at him. He laughed. You really think these documents change everything? I looked at him. Explain. You don't have enough voting power anymore. He smiled. The shares have already transferred. That was the moment everyone looked at me. Because he was right. According to their plan, they controlled the majority. They thought this was the final move. But they didn't know my final move had already happened. I slowly closed my folder. You're right. Ryan smiled. I knew you would understand. No. I looked at him. You misunderstood. His smile disappeared. I sold my shares. Silence. Claire stared at me. What? I sold my controlling shares before this meeting. Ryan stood. To who? I looked around the room. Then I answered. To Atlas Global Technologies. The entire room froze. Atlas Global. One of the few companies powerful enough to challenge Blackwell Capital. Ryan's expression changed completely. You couldn't. I did. Claire whispered. Dominic. I looked at her. You wanted investors. I stood up. So I found better ones. The chairman immediately asked. When was this transaction completed? I handed him the final document. 2 days ago. Ryan grabbed the paper. His hands were shaking. This can't be legal. I looked at him. It was reviewed by 3 legal teams. He stared at me. You planned this. I nodded. Yes. For how long? I looked at Claire. Then Ryan. Since the day I realized the people closest to me were the ones I needed to protect myself from. Nobody spoke. Because everyone understood. This wasn't a takeover. This was a counterattack. I walked out of the meeting knowing one thing. Claire and Ryan thought they had stolen my company. But they never understood the most important rule of business. The person who controls the future is not always the person sitting in the CEO chair. Sometimes, the person who wins is the one who knows when to leave and when to come back. My war with them was far from over. In fact, it had just begun. People often misunderstand revenge. They think revenge is about watching someone suffer. They think it means destroying the person who hurt you. But after everything that happened with Claire, I learned something different. The most powerful revenge is not making someone lose everything. It is letting them realize they lost the one thing they could never get back. Your trust. After the shareholder meeting, Steel Innovations changed overnight. The same people who avoided eye contact with me suddenly wanted meetings. Executives who had remained silent during Claire and Ryan's takeover attempt started calling my assistant. Investors who questioned my leadership suddenly praised my decisions. That was how the business world worked. People rarely respected the truth. They respected results. But I didn't care about their opinions anymore. The only person whose opinion had ever mattered was Claire. And that was the part one was still trying to accept. The woman I spent 8 years protecting had been planning how to replace me. 2 days after the meeting, Claire came to my office. I knew she would. People like Claire always came back after losing control. Not because they missed you, because they missed what you provided. My assistant called. Mr. Steele, Claire Sterling is here. I was silent for a moment. Then I said, send her in. A few seconds later, she walked through the door. She looked different. Not physically, emotionally. The confidence she had before was gone. The woman who once sat in my CEO chair now looked like someone who wasn't sure where she belonged. Dominic. I looked up from my laptop. Claire. She stood there for several seconds. Neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, I need to talk to you. I leaned back. About what? She looked uncomfortable. About everything. I almost smiled. Everything. That was a convenient word. People always used it after they destroyed the important parts. Sit. She sat across from me. For the first time in years, she looked nervous around me. Not angry. Not confident. Nervous. Why did you do it? I looked at her. Do what? Sell your shares. I stared at her. That is what you're asking me? She lowered her eyes. I don't understand. No, Claire. I shook my head. You understand perfectly. She was quiet. You spent months trying to take control of my company. I thought I was helping it. Helping? My voice became colder. You helped Ryan steal information. That wasn't my intention. You signed agreements with Blackwell Capital. I thought it would create opportunities. You planned to remove me. She didn't answer. Because there was no answer. The truth was sitting between us. She had done all of it. Then she said something I didn't expect. I was scared. I looked at her. Scared? Yes. She took a breath. I was tired of being known as Dominic Steele's wife. I didn't speak. She continued. Everywhere we went, people talked about you. The genius founder. The billionaire CEO. The man who built everything. Her voice became softer. And I was just Claire. I stared at her. For years, I thought Claire wanted success. Now I realized she wanted recognition. There was a difference. You could have told me. I did. No. She shook her head. I told you I wanted more. You told me you wanted to help the company. I thought it was the same thing. I looked away. That sentence explained everything. Claire didn't betray me because she hated me. She betrayed me because she convinced herself she deserved more. And once someone starts believing they deserve something, they can justify almost anything. Where's Ryan? I asked. Claire froze. I don't know. You don't know? He hasn't answered my calls. I nodded. Of course. Ryan disappeared the moment he realized she was no longer useful. That was the kind of person he was. He didn't love Claire. He loved access. He loved power. He loved the idea of becoming important. Claire finally understood. You knew. I looked at her. Knew what? That he would leave me. Yes. Her eyes became emotional. Why didn't you tell me? I laughed quietly. Would you have believed me? She didn't answer. Because we both knew. She wouldn't have. A week later, Claire received the money from the share transfer. The amount shocked everyone. $12 billion. People expected me to keep everything. They expected me to destroy her financially. But I didn't. I honored the agreement. Because unlike Claire and Ryan, I kept my promises. She called me that evening. Dominic. I answered. What? Why? I knew exactly what she meant. Because it was part of the contract. No. Her voice changed. Why did you give me that much? I looked at the papers on my desk. Because you wanted independence. That isn't what I meant. Then what did you mean? Silence. Then she whispered. I thought you hated me. I closed my eyes. I did. The honesty surprised her. But hate doesn't change agreements. Dominic. I spent years building this company. I paused. And I spent years loving you. Her voice broke. I never wanted to hurt you. I answered quietly. But you did. For the first time, Claire stopped defending herself. I made a mistake. No. She became silent. A mistake is forgetting an appointment. I looked at the divorce documents. This was a choice. She started crying. I heard it. But I didn't feel the same pain anymore. That was when I realized something. The hardest part wasn't losing Claire. The hardest part was accepting that the person I loved was gone long before the divorce. The divorce process moved quickly. Neither of us fought. There were no public arguments. No media scandals. No accusations. Just signatures. A marriage that once seemed impossible to break ended with a few pieces of paper. Before Claire signed the final documents, she looked at me. Do you hate me? I thought about it. The old Dominic would have said yes. The man who lost everything emotionally would have wanted her to feel the same pain. But I wasn't that man anymore. No. She looked surprised. No. I shook my head. I don't hate you. Then what do you feel? I looked at her. Nothing. That hurt her more than anger would have. Because anger meant there was still a connection. Nothing meant the connection was gone. Meanwhile, Ryan was discovering his own problems. Blackwell Capital refused to give him the position he expected. The promises he believed in disappeared. Victor Blackwell never saw Ryan as a partner, only a tool. And tools were replaced when they stopped being useful. Ryan called me one night. I almost ignored it. But I answered. Dominic. His voice was different. The arrogance was gone. What do you want? You knew. Knew what? You knew Blackwell would abandon me. Yes. A pause. How? I smiled. Because I understand people like Victor Blackwell. Ryan became quiet. Then he said, "You destroyed everything." "No," I replied. "You destroyed your own life when you thought betraying someone was the same as defeating them." He didn't respond. Before hanging up, he asked, "Do you ever regret it?" I knew what he meant. The company, the marriage, everything. I looked at the city outside my window. No. The answer came easier than I expected. Because if I hadn't lost everything, I paused. I would have never learned who was standing beside me. After everything ended, I thought my story with Claire was finished. I was wrong. Because while Claire was trying to rebuild her life, and Ryan was trying to survive, Victor Blackwell was preparing his next move. The battle over steel innovations was only the beginning. The real war was just starting. And this time, I wasn't fighting to protect my company. I was fighting to protect everything I had built from the people who wanted to own it. People thought my battle with Claire and Ryan ended the day I walked out of the shareholder meeting. They were wrong. That was only the moment they realized they had lost. Losing a company was one thing. Losing control of the story was another. For months, Claire and Ryan had convinced everyone that I was the problem. They told investors I was too attached to the past. They told employees I refused to change. They told themselves they were saving steel innovations. But when the truth came out, they discovered something they never expected. I wasn't the obstacle. I was the only thing keeping the company alive. 3 weeks after the shareholder meeting, I joined Atlas Global Technologies as their chief strategy officer. The media called it a comeback. I didn't see it that way. I wasn't coming back. I was moving forward. Atlas had acquired my former controlling shares, but they didn't want to erase steel innovations. They wanted to expand it. That was the difference between Atlas and Blackwell Capital. Blackwell saw companies as numbers. Atlas saw them as people. On my first day, the CEO of Atlas, James Anderson, called me into his office. He closed the door. "Dominic, I want to be clear about something." I sat down. "Go ahead. You are not here because we bought your shares." I looked at him. "No, no." He placed a folder on the desk. "You're here because everyone in this industry knows one thing." I opened the folder. "What?" "You built something nobody else could." I smiled slightly. "That's why Victor Blackwell wants it." James nodded. "Exactly." I looked at him. "You know about Project Phoenix?" His expression changed. "Yes." That was the moment I realized this was bigger than Claire and Ryan. Project Phoenix. The name had appeared several times in the documents Emma found. At first, I thought it was just another investment plan. I was wrong. It was a strategy, a plan to control the entire technology market. James continued. "Blackwell Capital has been buying companies quietly for years." "I know." "No, Dominic." He looked serious. "You know what happened to Steel Innovations. You don't know what he is planning next." I leaned forward. "Tell me." James opened another file. "Victor wants a monopoly." I looked through the information. Multiple acquisitions, hidden ownership structures, competitors being pushed out. It was aggressive and dangerous. "Why tell me this?" James didn't hesitate. "Because you understand him." I looked at him. "You think I can stop him?" "I think you're the only person who knows how." That night, I reviewed everything. Victor Blackwell wasn't just a businessman. He was a strategist. He didn't attack directly. He waited. He created problems. Then he offered solutions. People thanked him for fixing disasters he created. That was his talent, manipulation. And unfortunately for him, I knew exactly how people like him thought, because I had spent years competing against them. A few days later, I received a call from an unexpected person. Ryan Mitchell. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something told me to answer. "Dominic." His voice sounded different. Not confident. Not arrogant. Broken. "What do you want?" There was a pause. "I need to talk." "About what?" "About Blackwell." I stayed silent. Ryan continued. "He lied to me." I laughed. "You just figured that out?" "Dominic." "No, Ryan." My voice became colder. "You don't get to act surprised." "I know." His answer came quietly. "I know what I did." That surprised me. For the first time, Ryan wasn't defending himself. "I made mistakes." "No." I corrected him. "You made choices." Silence. Then, "You're right. I didn't expect that." Ryan continued. "I thought I was smarter than everyone." "You did." "I thought I could use Claire." I said nothing. "I thought I could use Blackwell." He laughed bitterly. "But he was using me the whole time." I looked at the documents in front of me. "What do you want?" "I have information." "About what?" "Project Phoenix." My attention immediately changed. "What kind of information?" "Enough to hurt Victor." I met Ryan the next day. Not because I trusted him. I didn't. Trust was something he had already destroyed. But information was valuable. And sometimes, the person who hurts you knows exactly where the knife went. Ryan arrived looking exhausted. Nothing like the man who sat beside Claire during that board meeting. He looked smaller. "Weird seeing you here." I looked at him. You mean alive? He gave a weak smile. Fair. I sat down. Talk. He placed a drive on the table. This contains Blackwell's internal plans. I didn't touch it. Why give this to me? Because I want out. I stared at him. You think this fixes what you did? No. His answer was immediate. I know it doesn't. That was the first honest thing Ryan had ever said to me. I can't undo what happened. No, but I can stop him from doing this again. I looked at the drive. What exactly is inside? Acquisition targets. Who? Every major competitor. I frowned. That includes Atlas. Ryan nodded. Yes. I picked up the drive. Why should I believe you? Ryan looked at me. Because Victor doesn't care about me. A pause. He never did. After Ryan left, I gave the drive to my legal and security teams. The results came back within 24 hours. Everything was real. Blackwell was preparing the largest technology takeover in American history, and Steel Innovations was only the beginning. I called James. We need to move. He answered immediately. Bad news. Worse. I explained everything. When I finished, he was silent. Then he asked, can we stop him? I looked at the data. Yes. How? By doing what he doesn't expect. What? Going public. James understood. You want to expose him. Not just expose him. I looked at the documents. I want everyone to know exactly what he has been doing. The announcement shocked the industry. Atlas Global released evidence of Blackwell Capital's acquisition strategy. Investors panicked. Regulators started investigations. Companies that had been secretly approached by Victor immediately pulled away. For the first time in years, Victor Blackwell lost control. But I knew someone like him wouldn't surrender. People like Victor didn't accept defeat. They looked for someone to blame. And I knew exactly who he would blame. Ryan. 2 days later, Ryan disappeared. His apartment was empty. His phone was turned off. Then I received one final message from him. If something happens to me, the backup files are with Emma Hayes. I read it twice. Then I called Emma. She answered immediately. Dominic? Emma. My voice changed. Where are you? There was silence. Then she whispered. I think Victor knows I helped you. My expression became serious. Leave your location. Dominic, listen. No. I interrupted. Listen to me. I stood up. This is no longer about business. Another silence. This is a threat. That was the moment I understood something. Victor Blackwell wasn't just trying to take companies. He was willing to destroy people. Claire betrayed me. Ryan betrayed me. But Victor was different. He didn't care about relationships. He didn't care about loyalty. He only cared about control. And now he had made one mistake. He turned this into something personal. I spent years building Steel Innovations. Years protecting employees. Years creating something meaningful. I thought the hardest battle of my life was losing my company. I was wrong. The hardest battle was realizing there were people powerful enough to destroy everything simply because they wanted more. But Victor Blackwell forgot one thing. He thought I was dangerous because I built an empire. That wasn't true. I was dangerous because I knew how to rebuild after losing one. And now, I wasn't fighting to get my company back. I was fighting to make sure nobody like Victor Blackwell could ever take someone else's empire again. I used to think the hardest part of building an empire was creating something from nothing. I was wrong. The hardest part was protecting what you built from people who believed they deserved to own it. Claire wanted my company because she thought she had earned the right. Ryan wanted my position because he thought he was smarter than me. Victor Blackwell wanted everything because he believed power belonged only to those strong enough to take it. The difference between them and me was simple. They wanted control. I wanted to build something that lasted. And that was why they would lose. After Emma's warning, I moved quickly. I didn't believe in panic. Panic created mistakes. But preparation created advantages. I sent security teams to protect Emma and every former Steel Innovations employee connected to the investigation. I contacted federal investigators through our legal department, and I started building a case against Victor Blackwell. The evidence was overwhelming. Secret acquisitions, market manipulation, illegal information transfers. Blackwell Capital had spent years creating a system designed to eliminate competition. But there was one problem. Victor Blackwell was not careless. He covered his tracks. Every move looked legal. Every transaction had a professional explanation. That was what made him dangerous. He didn't break rules. He changed the game. 3 days later, I received a call from an unexpected person. Claire. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Dominic. Her voice sounded different. The confidence was gone. What happened? There was silence. Then she said, I need your help. I closed my eyes. For years, I imagined hearing those words. But I never imagined feeling nothing when they came. Why? Because Victor is coming after me. I stayed quiet. Claire continued. He froze several accounts connected to the investment deal. That doesn't make sense. I know. Her voice became emotional. He promised me protection. I almost laughed. Claire, what? You trusted Victor Blackwell? She didn't answer. That was the answer. You trusted a man who uses people as tools. I know that now. No. I corrected her. You know it because he stopped needing you. The silence on the other end was painful, but it was also true. Claire came to my office that afternoon. For the first time since our marriage ended, she didn't look like someone who wanted something from me. She looked like someone who finally understood what she had lost. I was wrong. I looked at her. That was not something Claire said often. About what? Everything. She sat down. Ryan warned me about you. I raised an eyebrow. Ryan warned you about me? He said you were too controlling. I didn't respond. He said you cared more about the company than people. I looked at her. And you believed him? She lowered her head. Yes. A long pause. Why? She looked confused. Why what? Why did you believe someone who barely knew me over the person who spent 8 years beside you? Her eyes became wet. I don't know. That answer was honest. And somehow, that made it worse. I thought I was building my own life. Claire's voice was quiet. I thought I was finally becoming someone important. You were already important. She looked at me. No, Dominic. She shook her head. I was always standing behind you. I looked at her. That was your choice. She didn't argue, because she knew I was right. I never stopped her from building something. I never told her she couldn't have a career. I never asked her to be invisible. But somewhere along the way, she decided my success was the reason for her unhappiness. And instead of building her own future, she tried to take mine. Can you stop Victor? I looked at her. Yes. Her expression changed. Then help me. I didn't answer immediately, because this was the moment I needed to decide who I wanted to be. The angry husband? The betrayed man? The person who wanted revenge? Or Dominic Steele? The man who built everything because he believed in something bigger than himself. Finally, I said, I will help you. Claire looked relieved. Thank you. But don't misunderstand. Her smile disappeared. I am not doing this for you. She nodded slowly. I know. I am doing this because Victor is dangerous. She looked down. And because employees who trusted me are still at risk. The next day, I met with James from Atlas. When I told him Claire had information about Victor, he was surprised. You trust her? No. Then why bring her in? Because information doesn't need to come from someone you trust. I looked at the files. It just needs to be accurate. James nodded. That sounds like you. What does? You don't forgive easily. I looked at him. No. Good. I raised an eyebrow. Good? Because people like Victor survive because everyone underestimates how dangerous they are. He paused. You don't. Claire provided everything she had. Emails, contracts, private conversations with Victor, and one document changed everything. A private agreement between Blackwell Capital and Ryan Mitchell. The agreement proved Ryan was never supposed to become CEO. He was only a temporary replacement, a distraction, a tool. I wasn't surprised, but Claire was. She stared at the document. He used us. I looked at her. Yes. Her voice became quiet. He used me. Yes. She covered her face. For a moment, I saw the person I married. Not the woman who betrayed me. Not the person who made those decisions. Just Claire. A woman who finally realized she had destroyed her own life chasing someone else's promises. Then came the biggest problem. Victor knew we had evidence. And he responded. Blackwell Capital launched a public attack against Atlas. They accused us of trying to destroy competition. They accused me of revenge. They used media appearances. They hired consultants. They created a story. According to them, Dominic Steele was a bitter founder trying to punish the people who replaced him. It was smart. Very smart. Because public opinion could destroy a company faster than any lawsuit. James looked at me. They're winning the media battle. I nodded. I know. What do we do? I looked at the reports. Then I smiled. We stopped playing defense. The next morning, I announced a press conference. Everyone expected me to attack Victor. They expected anger. They expected accusations. Instead, I did something different. I showed proof. Every document, every transaction, every hidden agreement, every person involved. The story changed within hours. Because facts were harder to manipulate, investors started leaving Blackwell. Regulators increased their investigation. Companies canceled partnerships. For the first time, Victor Blackwell was losing. That night, I received a call. Unknown number. I answered. Dominic Steele. A familiar voice responded. Congratulations, Victor Blackwell. I stayed silent. You finally got your revenge. I smiled. No, you still don't understand. What don't I understand? This was never about revenge. A pause. Then what was it about? I looked at the documents on my desk. Stopping people like you. Victor laughed. You think you won? No. I answered calmly. I know I did. The line went quiet. Then Victor said, You're more like me than you think. I smiled. That is the biggest insult you could give me. Why? Because I built something. I paused. You only take things. The next morning, Victor Blackwell was officially under investigation. Blackwell Capital's stock collapsed. Several executives resigned. And the same people who once wanted to work with him started pretending they never knew him. That was the reality of power. Everyone loved you when you were winning. Everyone disappeared when you started losing. A month later, Claire asked to meet one final time. We sat across from each other. No anger. No arguments. Just two people who once believed they would grow old together. I lost everything. I looked at her. No. She looked surprised. You didn't lose everything. What did I keep? Yourself. She smiled sadly. You really believe that? Yes. She looked down. Do you think we could ever? I stopped her. Not because I hated her. Because I finally accepted the truth. No. She nodded. I understand. And surprisingly, she did. When I left that meeting, I didn't feel victory. I felt peace. For months, I had been fighting people who wanted to take my future. But I finally understood something. They never had the power to take it. Because my future was never inside a company. It was inside me. Steel Innovations survived. Atlas grew stronger. Victor Blackwell lost everything he tried to control. And Claire finally learned the lesson I learned long ago. An empire is not built by the people who claim ownership. It is built by the people willing to protect it. But there was still one chapter left. The final chapter. The one where I stopped looking back and finally started living again. People always told me that winning would feel different. They imagined the moment I defeated Victor Blackwell would be the greatest moment of my life. They imagined I would celebrate, that I would look back at everyone who betrayed me and feel satisfied. But the truth was much simpler. When the battle was finally over, I didn't feel like a man who had won a war. I felt like a man who had finally stopped fighting. For months, my life had been about proving something. Proving Claire was wrong. Proving Ryan was a fraud. Proving Victor Blackwell could be defeated. But after everything ended, I realized something important. I never needed to prove myself. I only needed to remember who I was. 6 months after Blackwell Capital collapsed, Steel Innovations reached a new stage. The company was stronger than ever. Not because of money, not because of investors, because the people inside the company believed in it again. One morning, James Anderson walked into my office. You know something interesting? I looked up from the report in front of me. What? Your old employees still call it Steel Innovations. I smiled. Because that's the name. He shook his head. No, that's not what I mean. He sat down. They call it that because they believe the company still belongs to the person who built it. I looked at the documents on my desk. For years, I thought building a company meant creating products, hiring talented people, making money. But I was wrong. A company was never just buildings, shares, or technology. A company was the people who believed in the mission. And that was something Claire and Ryan never understood. They saw value in ownership. I saw value in purpose. One afternoon, Emma Hayes came into my office. She placed a report on my desk. Everything is finalized. I opened it. What is this? The investigation results. I read through the document. Victor Blackwell. Multiple violations. Illegal acquisitions. Market manipulation. Fraudulent investment practices. The man who spent years convincing everyone he controlled the future was now fighting to protect his own. Emma watched my expression. Are you satisfied? I closed the report. No. She looked surprised. No. I shook my head. Satisfaction would mean I wanted this. Didn't you? I thought about it. Months ago, maybe I did. Maybe a part of me wanted Victor to suffer. Maybe I wanted Claire and Ryan to feel the same pain they caused me. But now? No. I wanted justice. Emma nodded. There's a difference. Yes. I looked out the window. A big one. A few weeks later, I received an invitation. A business conference in New York. The topic was entrepreneurship and technology leadership. Normally, I would have ignored it. I had spent years avoiding public attention. But this time I accepted. Not because I wanted recognition. Because I wanted to share what I learned. During the conference, the host asked me a question. Mr. Steele, after everything you've experienced, what is the biggest lesson you learned as a founder? Thousands of people were watching. Years ago, I would have given the answer everyone expected. I would have talked about innovation, competition, growth. Instead, I said, people. The host smiled. People? Yes. I nodded. Companies fail because leaders forget that businesses are built by people. I paused. Technology can be copied. Strategies can be studied. Money can be earned. But trust? I looked at the audience. Trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy. The room became quiet. And the people you choose to stand beside you matter more than any business decision you will ever make. After the conference, I received another unexpected message. Claire. She wanted to meet. At first, I considered refusing. But then I realized something. Avoiding the past didn't mean I had moved on. Sometimes, closure required one final conversation. We met at a small restaurant. No lawyers, no contracts, no business discussions. Just two people who used to know each other better than anyone else. Claire looked different. Not because she changed her appearance, because she changed her attitude. She wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. Thank you for coming. I nodded. You said you wanted to talk. She smiled slightly. You haven't changed. I raised an eyebrow. What does that mean? You still get straight to the point. I smiled. Some things don't need to change. She looked down. I thought about what you said. When? The last time we met. I waited. You said I lost myself. I nodded. I remember. She took a breath. I hated hearing it. I know. Because I thought you were blaming me. You thought wrong. She looked at me. What were you doing? Trying to make you understand. She was silent. Then she said, I understand now. Claire looked at me. I spent years thinking your success was the reason I wasn't happy. I didn't interrupt. But the truth was, she paused. I wasn't happy because I didn't know who I was without being connected to someone else. For the first time in a long time, I respected her honesty. Not because it changed what happened. It didn't. But because she finally accepted responsibility. I was selfish. I nodded. Yes. She gave a small, sad smile. You don't make it easy. No. I looked at her. But pretending would be worse. She laughed quietly. That was the first real laugh between us in years. Before leaving, Claire asked one question. Do you ever miss us? I stopped. Because the answer wasn't simple. Did I miss the marriage? Yes. Did I miss the person I thought Claire was? Sometimes. But did I want to go back? No. I miss who we were before everything changed. She nodded. Me too. But that doesn't mean we belong there anymore. She looked at me. No. She understood. And that was enough. A year after everything began, I returned to the original Steel Innovations building. The company had grown far beyond what I imagined when I started. But I didn't think about the money, or the awards, or the headlines. I thought about the beginning. The nights when I worked alone. The moments when nobody believed in me. The days when failure seemed more likely than success. And I realized something. The hardest moments of my life didn't destroy me. They rebuilt me. Ryan eventually left the technology industry. He started a small consulting company. I heard he became a different person. Less arrogant. More careful. Maybe losing everything taught him something. Maybe it didn't. Either way, it was no longer my concern. Victor Blackwell spent years dealing with lawsuits and investigations. A man who spent his life collecting power discovered something too late. Power disappears quickly when nobody trusts you. One evening, James asked me, do you ever regret not destroying Claire and Ryan completely? I smiled. No. Why? Because destruction is easy. I looked at the company reports. Building something better is harder. James nodded. You really changed. I laughed. Did I? Yes. How? He thought for a moment. Before, you wanted to win. And now? Now you want to create. I smiled. Maybe he was right. I spent years believing my greatest achievement was building Steel Innovations. I was wrong. My greatest achievement was surviving the moment when everything I built was almost taken away. I lost a wife. I lost trust. I lost the life I thought I would have. But I found something more valuable. Myself. The man who started with nothing. The man who believed impossible things could become reality. The man who didn't need anyone's approval. That man was still there. And he was stronger than ever. My name is Dominic Steele. I built an empire. I lost it. I fought for it. But in the end, the greatest thing I ever rebuilt wasn't my company. It was my own life.